So good evening, everybody. I'm Professor Demir Gerdician of the Armenian Studies program. I'd like to welcome you to our spring lecture series. For many of you, you're familiar with our activities, and if you're not, you can go on Facebook, look at Armenian Studies Fresno State, go to our website to look up our events that are coming up in the semester. I just want to tell you that in 2 weeks from tonight, in the same hall that we're in, Dr. Dr. Hakim Al-Rostam from the University of Michigan will be speaking about the Armenian community in Turkey and how their identity has been erased over time. He's publishing a new book about that topic. He is the Manoogian Professor of Modern Armenian History at Michigan. He's been teaching there for quite a few years. So we're looking forward to his presentation on Friday, March the 21st in this hall. And then 1 week after that, on Friday, March 28th, our visiting professor, Dr. Talin Sujan, if you'll just raise your hand. Dr. Sujan has given 2 lectures already this semester. Her lectures are based on her research on family archives. The first one was about letters. The second one was about postcards. The third one will be on Friday, March 28th. It will be back in the Smith Camp Alumni House, where she had her first 2 lectures. So the next one on the 21st will be here, which we'll let you know about it as we take a look at it. So tonight we have the pleasure of having with us David Karamian, who is an accomplished professional turned creative visionary, because he has degrees in engineering, design engineering, and business management, and he spent most of his career with Fortune 20 companies, traveling to over 25 countries throughout the world, across 5 continents. So he's going to tell you how that transformed into his journey across the world to Armenia, and how he eventually came to produce a book that we're going to be listening about. And as you can see on the 2 tables, there are a lot of beautiful publications and prints that David Karamian has produced in his many travels to Armenia. And tonight he's going to be talking about Armenia The Lone Stone, A Traveler's Guide, which is a compact and very versatile travel guide for Armenia, which takes a look at its history, culture, etc. And so tonight, we're very happy that David is here with us tonight to present about his new book about the country of Armenia. So let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Welcome, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Barlow. I would love to first thank Barlow and Fresno State for this wonderful opportunity in this very prestigious university, in an accomplished university which has so much history of Armenian culture and heritage, to present my new book, Armenia The Lone Stone, A Traveler's Companion. This place is very special to not just myself, but many other creative people who have an opportunity to come over and express and present their creative works, either through history, art, music, research. It's a fantastic opportunity, and I sincerely appreciate the work that you yourself, Barlow, and Fresno State are doing. So really appreciate your efforts, as well as this opportunity to be here. To Fresno, to me, it's like, I wasn't born in US. I came here 50 years ago when I was a teenager. And before coming to US, there was only one place that I knew. When we thought about, when we talked about American Armenians, the only place that came to our mind was Fresno. I grew up in Iran. I went to, Armenian schools, but every time we spoke about the Armenian Americans, the only thing that came to our mind was Fresno. Until I came to US, I didn't know there was such a thing as Detroit Armenians, or Cleveland Armenians, or Chicago Armenians, or New York, Massachusetts, and etc. I remember when I was in like 15, 16 years old, there was an organization called Iran America Society where they were teaching English. I was taking English classes with the aspiration to leave the country one day and come to US. And one of the advanced classes, we had a book, we had a story. It was called My Name is Aram by William Saroyan. You can't imagine what a fantastic, how you feel. I was the only Armenian student in that entire school, Imagine an Armenian in Iran, in a place where we were just a fraction of the population. You're going to school and you're reading a story about Aram, who happened to be my uncle's name too. I was getting goosebumps. I was struggling to put the words together, but it was one of those fantastic feelings. So Fresno has a special place in the Armenian community, in the Armenian hearts, and has produced so many talented people, whether it's in the arts or music and cinema, theater, etc. So it's a fantastic, I'm honored to be over here. So thank you again, Bardo, for the invitation. So as it relates to the book itself, you know, I studied Armenian, and every book that I read, you know, I read all of his books, Avetis Aronian, Siamanto, and many of the other books, you know. You know, when you grow up until the independence, you know, the only thing we could see about Armenia was just some postcards, you know, beautiful postcards of this, the opera house or et cetera, and everything else was like what I read about, like the, you know, the Rafi's stories and the way he described the land and everything. It was, you know, I've always loved history, and everything was like engraved in my brain as if I was watching a movie. So it was in 2005 was when the first time when I was going to Armenia, I was like extremely nervous, and I was worried that I was going to be disappointed, because my impression was like there's this fantastic place with these gorges and valleys and forests and mountains and everything. I was going there for the first time. I said, am I going to be disappointed? But honestly, when I walked into the country, the moment I went into Yerevan and saw the downtown, the architecture, it was just, I was like fascinated. A couple of days later, we went into the country. We started traveling to all of the different locations, the iconic sites, etc. I said, this is heaven. Everything that Rafi described, it was that and even more. So I've always had a passion for photography. Every place that I go, I've traveled many different countries. My camera is one of my best friends. Most of it has been for business, but every place I go, I take my camera and I spend an extra day or two just to take like some photographs and document. So every place that I went in Armenia, I started documenting. I was taking pictures, you know, for fun, but then I really didn't have a strategy about what I was going to do with those photographs. It's just that I was bringing them back and putting them in different folders on my computer with the hope that someday I would do something about it. So here comes 2020, it's COVID, and the Artsakh war started. By the way, in 2015, I had been to Artsakh also. I have some photographs that I've taken. I went to most of the iconic sites over there. Dadivank and Ganzasar and Dikrakert and et cetera, So I'd already documented all that too. So 2020 comes, the Artsakh war starts, there's COVID, doom and gloom, everybody's trying to figure out how do we help, you know? Everybody was trying to help their best way, whether financially or being involved in organizations and et cetera. I said, I'm gonna try to do it in a different way. Of course, I always help financially which way I can, but as Armenians, we have always talked to ourselves. You know, we always talk to ourselves about all the beautiful things that we have. My goal has always been, I feel that we need to reach out to non-Armenians. That's really important for us, especially at this point in our history. It's extremely critical for us to be able to connect to non-Armenians, let them know about our culture, our history, our art, our music, our science, all our contributions to the world. We are not doing that well. Every time we talk to somebody, the only thing that they think about is the genocide. Yeah, genocide is something that is critical. It needs to be recognized by many countries that have not recognized. Most of the Western civilized countries have already, you know, recognized it. So the challenge is with the Turkic countries, and that's going to take a long time. So my goal is to reach out to non-Armenians. That is I didn't develop these books, you know, for Armenians. Of course, they enjoy it, everybody who's seen it. Many Armenians have never been there, or even if they have been there, they hardly know about many of the places that I have in my books. So it's a cause for me about how do I promote the Armenian heritage, culture, art, music, and etc. So that's been one of my, you know, strategic goals, to to have a completely different perspective on Armenia, change the perception from genocide to people who are thriving. They have a history of 3,000 years old. We have contributions in every facet of art and music and science, and etc. So that is my aspiration, that's my goal, and that's what I'm kind of pushing towards. So that drove the development of my first book, which is the larger book, which took off. I've worked for world's largest corporations. Most of my friends or people that I know are non-Armenians. I haven't lived in the Armenian community like Glendale or those type of places. You know, I've always been in places where most of the people that I hang around with as an Armenian, and I always try to tell them what a fantastic place it is, what a fantastic, you know, culture we have. So with that said, you know, the book took off. And it's on Amazon, and most of the people who have bought it and reviewed it, they're saying, wow, this is just absolutely fantastic. So the point here is that a lot of them now see Armenia. I have so many people that know me and say, we want to go see the place, but how do we get started? So that kind of, put the thought in my head that I gotta come up with a derivative book that's gonna have not just the current book, which is more of an arts and photography and poetry. The first book is essentially focused on art, history, photography, and poetry, everything that I could pull together. The second book is everything that's in the first book, but much more compact and a lot more. So that's what I'm going to present today. So sorry about the long introduction, but I just wanted to provide some background about what I did, why I did this. So the book itself has several sections. Before you arrive, what do you need, you know, before you get to go to Armenia and when you arrive? And then when you're there, now you're in the city, most likely 99% chance you're going to go to Yerevan, that's your starting place. And then how do you experience the culture, the museums, the restaurants, the bookstores, you know, the cool places to go, places that you can hang out. And then once you're settled in Yerevan, now you're starting to explore the rest of the country. Now you're going on road trips. You're trying to explore the off the beaten path, hidden places, the real iconic locations that are far away. And then lastly, it's beyond basics. Now let's say if you're going there, you know, you take your kids over there, you're saying, you know, I want to just hang out. I want to go to a winery. I don't want to go look at a monastery or a fortress or anything like that. You know, I want to go just hang out there. I want to drink some wine. Where do I go? And I'm taking my kids too. These days, a lot of people are going there with their kids. So what's happening is that they're saying, you know, where do I take my kids? You know, I got 2, 3, 4-year-old kids. So I've got a section for the kids also. You know, where are the places that you can take your kids? So this is kind of like the agenda for today. And now let's go to the, you know, it's not a history book, but I have one page, 10,000 feet or 20,000 feet level. That's what is the Armenian history. If I'm going to Armenia, I've never been there. You know, I'm an Englishman, I'm an Italian, I'm a French person who's going to Armenia. Says, what's your history about? Not many people know that we've been around for like 3,000 years. Come back to the Urartian period, you know, which are the predecessors to the Armenians. We've been there for 3,000 years. We have like some key milestones in our history that I've documented in one page. 301, we were the first nation that became Christian in the world. In 405, we invented, Mesrok Mashtots invented the Armenian alphabet, which gave, you know, it saved our language. It really helped us, you know, to, you know, not only just save our language, but it became an integral part of our culture. In 1915 was the most tragic period in our history, the genocide, but we've overcome that. In 1991, we became an independent country, and now we are a thriving modern country with so many things that are going in our direction. The only democratic country east of Europe, all the way out to Japan and China. So I'm pretty proud of what we've accomplished. So it's one page, 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet level about the history of Armenia. I have basic logistical information. I'm not going to cover this in detail for you, but the moment you get to the country, from the immigration, the moment you get to the immigration and you take a taxi, how do you take a taxi? 10 years ago, if you went there, you had to basically negotiate the taxi drivers, or somebody would approach you and say, how do I take, where do you want to go? And then you had to negotiate the rate and everything. But now the system has changed. It's incredible the amount of changes that I've noticed just in the past 5 years. They have the equivalent of Uber and Lyft over there. The moment you pass the immigration, eco taxi, $10, it takes you to your hotel or wherever you're staying, the latest and greatest car. You have the apps that you can use, you know, to take you from point A to B in the city, and it's only $3, $4. You can go from one end of the city to the other one, It's fantastic. So many things have changed. I've written about the local transportation, about communication. It's about the electrical systems. It's about the currency. It's about health and safety in case if somebody happens to need a doctor or a clinic or a hospital. Everything is covered in there. So I've got the basic logistics already mapped out in here so that it gives everybody an understanding of when you get there, what do you need to do to settle in your place. And then a high-level demographics. And I've got the 12 provinces of Armenia, 1 or 2 cities in each province that I've highlighted what's the key, the offering of that particular city, what's so unique about the city. For instance, if you're in the Syunik, you got Goris, which is right in the proximity of Tatev Monastery, and we have the cave dwellings and everything. It's an absolutely fantastic place. Let's say if you're in the Armavir region, Armavir is the home of the Mother See Cathedral of Hmiyotzin. So just high-level information, depending on what part of the country you go to, you know exactly where to go and what's available there. I've got a bit of information about the geography of the country. And Mount Aragats is the highest peak in Armenia, about 13,000 feet. The language is one of the oldest languages in the world, Indo-European, more than 2,000 years old. And it's spoken in both Eastern Armenian, which is in Armenia and Iran, and the rest of the diaspora generally speak the Western Armenian. The population is, depending on the time of the year, it's almost between 2.6 million to 3 million people. And but we have about 7 to 10 million Armenians that are in the diaspora. The currency is dram, which is taken off from the word drachma, comes from the roots of it is Greek. And it was introduced in 1993, and we have many of our writers and musicians, all their pictures on the money. So it's essentially it's very easy. ATMs are everywhere. You can use any bank or every village, every city you go to, ATMs and banks are everywhere. So, and I'll have some basic words to help communicate with the local communities. Okay, barevzes, barev, formal, informal, ինչպես եք, որտեղ է, some basic fundamentals for you to connect with local people. It's really, really important, when you're going to a country, to be able to just say hi to someone in the country. English is spoken much more. If you went back maybe 10 years ago, things were very different. Hardly anybody spoke English except some of the people in Yerevan. But now it's spoken in many different places, and you see much more diversity. People are from France and England and Germany and Belgium and China. Every week, 2 planes come full of Chinese to Armenia to go visit all of the different iconic locations. So you're starting to see much more diversity, especially in Yerevan. I have to read a few pages here. So one of the most important aspects of any journey is the cuisine. Food isn't just nourishment. It's a gateway to culture, tradition, and connection. And in Armenia, it's all of that and more. Armenian cuisine, rich in flavor, steeped in tradition, short and sweet, just like gata and nazuk, from the fire-kissed perfection of khorovats to the delicate folds of lavash, every bite tells a story. Sip on world-class brandy and wine, savor the bold aroma of Armenian coffee, and indulge in the natural sweetness of apricots and pomegranates in Armenia. In Armenia, food isn't just about eating, it's about hospitality, tradition, and shared moments. Coffee culture is my favorite. In an Armenian home, coffee is more than a drink. It's an invitation to sit, talk, and connect. Coffee brings everything together: fruits, pastries, dried fruits, nuts, and sometimes brandy. It's not a grab-and-go culture. It's sit down, stay a while, talk about life. Armenian coffee, strong, unfiltered, served in small cups. And the best part, when you finish, someone will flip your cup and read your fortune. It's a tradition that never ends or never gets old. So whether you're around the table in Yerevan or sitting in a village, food in Armenia is more than just a meal. It's a way of life. And that's something you'll carry with you long after your trip. I work from home. My wife's a teacher. She's gone 5 days out of the week, and in the evening she goes and visits her 96-year-old mother. So the only time we really have time to talk is on Saturdays and Sundays when she's home. So this is our tradition. Every Saturday or Sunday she makes the coffee. We get the fruit and vegetables and all the the pastries. And I love Armenian brandy. Every time I go to LA area, I buy some brandy. I bring it back with me. So we sit down and for a couple of hours, we just talk about life. We talk about family. We talk about her work. I talk about the things that I'm working on. We talk about our kids. That's especially when you're living in the diaspora, you're not eating sujuk and lamajun and all that stuff every day. What you do is we eat pasta. We eat once in a while we make dolma, or once in a while we make robots and etc. But coffee is one of those things that brings all of those different ingredients together, almost everything that is Armenian together, that we truly enjoy. So whether it happens to be the dried fruit, whether it happens to be the fruit, whether it happens to be, every time I go to Armenia, I bring like about maybe 5-10 pounds of just dried fruit with me. I know sometimes you're not allowed to do that, but I do that anyway. So art and music are more than expressions in Armenia. They are the heartbeat of a nation, carrying its history, struggles, and triumphs through time. Every melody, every brushstroke is a thread in the fabric of Armenian identity, weaving together centuries of resilience and creativity. The duduk whispers the soul of the highlands. Its haunting notes carried across centuries. No one played it like Jivan Gasparian. In the world of art, Martiros Saryan captured the essence of Armenia through vibrant colors and bold compositions, painting the warmth of its landscapes and spirits of its people, and the depth of its traditions. His works radiate life, transforming everyday Armenian scenes into timeless masterpieces. Whether through sound or canvas, Armenia's creative pulse is an ancient yet revolutionary, etched in stone, painted in vivid hues, and played from the heart. Each of these aspects, Armenian cuisine, music, and art, and local traditions are covered in depth in the book, providing insight into their history, significance, and the best places to experience them firsthand. So think about Jivan Gasparian. If you've seen Last Temptation of Christ, if you've seen The Gladiator, I've forgotten what the movies were about, but the music is still engraved in my brain. These days, we are not just, our art and music is not just the old stuff, it's what we are doing even today. 2 weeks from now, 10 days from now, Dick Namasian is performing in San Francisco SF Jazz. I couldn't even get tickets, it's already sold out. Nakash Ensemble, John Hodian, has done some masterpieces. He's picked, poetry from 300-400 years about this poet in the Turkish part of Armenia. And he's brought 3 sopranos and a couple of musicians from Armenia with the traditional music, and he's going to be in San Francisco SF Jazz and in Sonoma in about days after that. I'm going to go see him. I saw him last year. But the point I'm trying to make right now is that we are not just boasting about what's in the past, what we've created in the past. We have currently some of the best artists in the world and some of the best musicians. Every place you go, we have, for instance, the Gorgiev Ensemble that are in almost every major concert hall in Europe. They are performing city after city. So we are not just living with the past, but we're also creating something new every day. So I'm extremely proud of that. Sometimes one might ask, what have film, science, and chess got to do with a travel book? Just like art and music, these are things we Armenians are proud of, legacies that have shaped our identity and contributions to the world. A journey through Armenia isn't just about landscapes and monuments, it's about the genius of its people, the stories they have told, the discoveries they have made, and the games they have mastered. This side isn't just about where to go, it's about what makes Armenia extraordinary and why we should boast about it to the world. You go to Italy, Italians, my wife's background is Italian, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, all of the great things that they have accomplished, you know. Why not talk, Armenians, why not boast about what we've brought to this world? Armenia's influence extends far beyond its borders, shaping the worlds of cinema, science, and chess, each a reflection of the nation's creative spirit, in power, and strategic brilliance. Through cinema, filmmakers like Sergei Parajanov and Adam Egoyan have told Armenia's story in ways that transcend language, blending history, identity, and art into globally acclaimed masterpieces. This same spirit of innovation has driven scientific breakthroughs from pioneering the MRI, ATM, and color television to advancements in astrophysics, engineering, and medicine. Contributions that have earned Armenians 3 Nobel Prizes in just years. And in chess, strategy meets legacy, with Armenia named Team of the Century by the International Chess Federation, solidifying its place as a world leader in the game. These achievements aren't just milestones, they are living expressions of Armenia's resilience, ingenuity, and cultural depth, shaping both the past and the future. So think about, you know, a country of about 2.5 to 3 million people. Chess is like, it's not just a game, it's part of the culture of Armenia. And we are competing with Russia, with China, with all the Europeans, Americans, you know, some of the, you know, the largest countries in the world who have established chess, and they have the resources. Yet it's a country of 2.5 million people, has won multiple world championships, where the Chess Federation has given the award of the century, not just an award of a decade, you know, the award of the century to the Armenians. So I'm extremely proud of. So I think that we need to boast about these type of things. I want somebody who's going to Armenia who doesn't know anything about Armenia, shouldn't they know about what we have contributed to the world? That's really what my goal was, you know. So it's not necessarily a travel book, but to get to know the country while you're going to visit the country and see bigger and better places. So in the book, I've covered the 4 of the largest cities, Yerevan, Gyumri, Vanadzor, and Ezhmiadzin, at depth. And Dilijan, to some extent, because it's called the Switzerland of Armenia. It's a very beautiful place to go to. For every one of these cities, I've covered like historical and cultural sites, architectural highlights, photography, hotspots. You know, if you're into like photography, you want to go to some cool places, do some brutalist type of photography, architecture. Everything about the food, everything about the cool boutiques, you know, the shops where you can go buy like handmade goods. You want to go to like a bookstore and just hang out and listen to some music and drink some cool coffee, good coffee or whatever. The music places, you know, whether it happens to be the opera house, whether it happens to be jazz clubs, you know, everything is covered in the book for each city in detail. Yerevan is a city that never stands still. Walk through the downtown streets and you'll hear the sounds of local musicians, duduk, the whole accordion, zurna, blending with the strum of a guitar and the echoes of Pink Floyd from a nearby cafe. The air is alive with the aroma of coffee, the smoky scent of khorovats on a grill, and the sound of clinking brandy glasses. In Opera Square, kids run freely while families gather and just steps away, art, music, and conversations spill out from every corner. Even the city's happy independent dogs roam through the parks, greeting strangers, napping in the sun, and adding to Yerevan's effortless charm. But the city doesn't just invite you to look, it pulls you in. Come in July, and don't be surprised if you get drenched. Vartavar, the water splashing festival, turns the entire city into a playground where no one is spread. Visit in the autumn, and Yerevan streets transform into a celebration of wine, music, and laughter. Yerevan Wine Days brings together locals and visitors to toast with Armenia's finest. Yerevan isn't just a city, it just isn't just a place to see, it's a place to experience. Yerevan is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. Founded in 7 BC, before Rome. Yerevan has evolved into Armenia's cultural, political, and artistic hub. Here, history and modern life blend seamlessly, from Soviet-era landmarks and brutalist architecture to bustling museums, and vibrant music venues. In Yerevan, you will find Aznavour Center, a tribute to Charles Aznavour, showcasing his music, films, and humanitarian work with a stunning rooftop view of Mount Ararat. Martyros Saryan Museum, the former studio of Armenia's most beloved painter, where his vibrant landscapes and portraits bring Armenian life to color. Hovannes Tumanyan Has Museum, a deep dive into the world of Armenia's greatest poet, featuring his personal belongings, manuscripts, and literary legacy. They're right across the street from each other. If you go on Saryan Street in Yerevan, on one side it's the Martyros Saryan Has Museum, and then across the street it's the Hovannes Tumanyan Museum. The Demirciyan Center, or complex, it's a Soviet-era architectural icon built into a hillside and known for its design and major cultural events. I was there in October, and we went to the Tsitsarnagaberd, or the genocide memorial over there. This location is about maybe 5-10 minutes away from it, just a walking distance, And my son wanted to go to the Tumo Center, which is like I'll speak about in a moment. So I walked from there, from Tsitsarnagaberd, or the memorial, to, to the Demirciyan Center. And it was afternoon, there was nobody there, just a couple of guards. I said, can I just go and just walk around? They said, yeah, you're welcome, just go ahead. So I walked maybe about an hour or so. It's a fantastic location. If you love photography, if you like abstract photography, if you like unique architecture, it's a fantastic place to go ahead and take some photographs. So it's definitely a place, in the evenings, generally they have all kinds of events going on, but during the day it's just quiet. Nobody. If you like jazz music, and Ulikhanian jazz clubs, they're just basically coming every night, they have a jazz band over there. Or you can go to the Tumo Center for Creative Technologies, a one-of-a-kind educational space where students explore animation, game design, music, and digital media for free. With locations now in Paris, Berlin, Beirut, and beyond, Tumo is taking Armenia's innovative learning model to the world. Yerevan is a city that moves, always growing, always creating, and this is just the beginning of what you'll find inside of the book. While Yerevan is the beating heart of Armenia, Gyumri is its soul. In Yerevan, if Yerevan is about movement and progress, Gyumri is about resilience and character. A city shaped by history, art, and unshakable spirit. Walking its streets, you'll feel a different rhythm, a slower pace, where tradition and creativity come together in unexpected ways. If you really want to know what life in Gyumri is about, go beyond the city center. When I was in Gyumri in October, we took the train, on a weekend train, my son and I, we said, let's go. I'd been to Gyumri once before. I said, let's take the train, because I'd never been on a train in Armenia. So we took the train from Yerevan to Gyumri. And of course, everybody just immediately goes to the downtown area, the Vartanan Square over there. So gorgeous. So that church you've seen on the screen over here, that church it's 150 years old, and it was completely destroyed during the earthquake in 1988. Finally, after 35 years later, in December of last year, it was finally reconsecrated. So it took 30 some odd years to completely rebuild it again. But we took a taxi. I wanted to go to places that outside of the downtown area. I wanted to see more. I knew about the Mother Armenian monument, which is like way outside of Gyumri. But I know Gyumri has some areas that are like industrial, old architecture, old history, old monuments. I wanted to see some of those places. So we took a taxi, and I said, just show us the places that it's outside of downtown area. We want to see what else is in there. But eventually we want to end up in the Mother Armenia. It's a cascade. It goes up, several hundred feet, on top of the hill. So the discussion that we had while in the taxi, This poor guy, I could tell that he had an old car, you know, didn't even have seat belts, nothing, you know. The discussion that I had in that taxi, it was so, that has left a memory in my mind. You know, I forgot all the different locations that we went to. Through photographs, I remember, but that discussion with that taxi driver was the most, you know, emotional thing that I felt, you know, because he was asking us, where did you come from? From US. What do you think about what's going on in the country? Our perspective about what's going on in the country. From my perspective, everything going well, because every time I go, these last 5 years or whatever, every time I go there, I see a lot of progress. The infrastructure, hotels, hospitals, schools, everything being built. But from their perspective, it's more important to hear what they are thinking, what's going on in the country. So that discussion just was so thoughtful, so meaningful for me. Eventually, you know, after going to several different places, you know, we ended up in the Mother Armenia complex. That area is right next to the Black Fortress. It used to be a Russian fortress, but now it's turned into a concert hall. You know, they have all kinds of events over there. And it's a beautiful park, all kinds of monument sculptures there. So we got off the taxi, and I don't know how much it was, like maybe about 4,000 drams or whatever, you know, like about $10 or whatever. And I gave him like 5,000. And then my son and I, we were trying to figure out the lay of the land, you know, where do we get started and stuff, you know. And the taxi left, and about 5 minutes later came back, and I was maybe about 100 feet away from the taxi. He was calling me. So I went back and said, what's going on? He was trying to give me the 500 drums or whatever back, you know. Honestly, I felt like a dagger in my heart. You know, here's a person, I could tell that he's like struggling, you know, to make a living, you know, he was so challenged, but here's 500 drums, you know, he's trying to give it back to me. I felt really bad, you know, I could have done more. But the point here is that, you know, those are the moments that are really, when you go to Armenia now, the old days, you know, we used to go from point A to B to, you know, one of the monuments, one of the monastery or something and come back, you know. But nowadays, which is I'm going to cover in the coming slides and, you know, presentation, is that to connect with people, local people. That's why I have some of the basic words in there, you know, Barevzes, Ishbesek, Lavek, Vorteve, this and that, you know. Those are so important, you know, to be able to connect with the local people, because that's really when you get to know the essence of the country, the essence of the people. That's really, those are the moments that you'll remember lifetime. Am I taking too much time, Barlow? No, I'm enjoying it. But anyway, so every time I go someplace these days, you know, I try to get lost, because that's when I find the places that's really unique. And 2 years ago, it was in the middle of summer, July, I went there with my brother, and we were right near downtown, you know, right near the Republic Square. And we had a Airbnb over there. And then it was like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. It was really hot. My brother was sound asleep. And I know Yerevan is safe. Armenia is one of the top 20 safest countries in the world. And that's not an exaggeration. That's based on data. So 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I said, I'm going for a walk. I was talking to myself, not telling my brother. So I got up and I started walking. I was like about a block away from that main road, you know, the street that generally during the day has got like hundreds of cafes that leads to the Republic Square. And then I went to the Republic Square. There was not a person inside. There was just a couple of dogs that were playing over there. And I've got a video of that. I'll show it to you. It's really fun. So from Republic Square, you know, just a little bit of history for you. People go there. If you understand the historical context, you know, the history of these places, you enjoy it a lot more than if you are there walking around and saying, what a beautiful place. Republic Square was designed by Alexander Tamanian, who is the lead architect of Yerevan 150 years ago. It was built in the 1920s through the 1950s. It's got like 5 giant buildings with the most beautiful architecture and 2 stones. So I spent some time over there. I went to one of the buildings in the Republic Square is actually the History Museum that's got more than 400,000 artifacts over there. Walked around there, and then I ended up going to what's called the Aznavour Square. The Aznavour Square is there used to be actually two old churches going to the medieval ages that Soviets tore down and built in the 1930s. They built the Aznavour Square. It's called the building that's there right now. It's called the Moscow Theater. They built it in the 1930s. So huge loss to our history. And then from there, I went to what's called just a little bit further, maybe another five minutes north of that. There's this chapel. It's from the 1200 something. It used to be part of a larger church, inside a larger church. So the Soviets demolished the church, and they realized that there's this chapel inside of the church with all these beautiful khachkars around it. So they saved that. So I spent some time over there, and then I walked to the Opera Square. And the Opera Square is actually, again, designed by Alexander Tamanian, the lead architect of Yerevan in the 1920s. Spent some time, and then I went to the Cascade Center, which is like about 900 feet high. It is built against a hill, 900 feet high. And from there, you can see the entire city. It's just an absolutely fantastic, emotion. When you're like in the middle of the night, there's not a single person inside. So with that said, now let's just take a look at the short video that takes us through that tour. I have a couple of other things in there, before it gets actually into the walk. Now we're in the Martirosyan Museum. At the Parajanov Museum. They're a dog family. My daughters insisted that I should have something about the dogs. Okay, now you've experienced the culture of Yerevan, a little bit about Gyumri. Now we're gonna go outside of the city. For the book, generally, in my first book, I had about 20 different locations that I mapped out, you know, pictorially, history-wise, and etc. But for this book, I have 36 different locations. I have about 4 of them are in Yerevan, like the Komitas, you know, museum, the Pantheon, the Modernity, and a few other ones that are in Yerevan. The rest of them that are in like Gyumri and other cities, they are covered in their respective sections. But in the end of the book, I've got 36 different locations that I feel that are iconic sites, you know, that gives you an opportunity to, you know, go and visit. So for each one of the locations, what I have is like 2 pages. You know, if you're going someplace, you know, it's important or critical to understand some history about that place. It makes it much more meaningful. For instance, if you're going to the Garni temple, which is one of the iconic sites in Armenia, it's maybe about 45 minutes to outside of Yerevan. It's really important for you to have a little bit of a perspective about location, its history, the architecture, when it was designed, what's happened through, you know, through earthquakes and damages that was done, the process of rebuilding, and what kind of experience you can expect, you know, when you go over there. So for every one of the locations, I've got like 2 pages that gives you high-level information about what you can expect when you go there. So I think it's really important it helps people they don't have to read like 20 pages to understand the entire history of the location. You can just read 1 page and understand enough to go in there and actually have a better experience. But one of the things I've done is, in the past, if you went to Armenia 10 years ago, generally, because of the infrastructure was pretty poor, the roads were in pretty bad shape, and a lot of the little places you went there, the hotels were not necessarily there, the accommodations were not there. We went to, you know, the Akhbat monastery. This is like exactly 12 years ago. We could only find 1 place right next to the monastery. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You know, people were coming busloads, you know, to visit the place, but there was no place to stay. So they would come long distance from Yerevan, 3, 4, 5 hours, and then they had to go back to Yerevan. But if you go there now, the roads are in fantastic condition. All the roads have been, one of the best things that the government has done is rebuild the infrastructure. The roads are in fantastic condition, and we went to what I call a journey, you know, the Northern Heritage Route, I call it. All the, you know, right near Akhbat, there's several boutique hotels, beautiful, world-class hotels. You know, people come from Europe. In the hotels that we were staying in, Guyana Hotel, about 5 minutes away from Akhbat Monastery, we stayed the night over there. They had 50 people coming from Germany that same evening, you know, to stay at that hotel and go see the monasteries. So the point I'm trying to make right now is that before, people used to go to Yerevan, go to a place and come back. So all of the resources, all of the money was being spent in the main city. And all of the villages and all of those remote places were not benefiting from that. Today, the infrastructure has been built. The tourist organization has done a fantastic job of even, you know, setting, like if you go to the City of Stones, I don't know if you've been there recently. If you go there, you know, it's incredible what they've done to that place. And all of the beautiful restaurants and hotels that are built around it. So my view is that, you know, I'm at a point in my life when I go to Armenia, I go to Yerevan, I enjoy it, I go to a jazz club, it's really fun, but then I want to go on a trip. I don't want to go there and come back the same day. I want to go spend a couple of days, see the other parts of the country. I want to really experience Armenia, you know, the most beautiful places are outside of Yerevan, because the moment you leave Yerevan, you feel like you're in a different world. Sometimes you drive 5-10 minutes before you see a car, and you're in these beautiful mountains and valleys and everything. And say, oh my God, I feel like I own the whole country. So what I've done in the book, I've put together like several road trips that takes like 2 days. So let's say one of them I'm going to cover it with you, what I call the Northern Heritage Route, that starts from Yerevan. It goes through the Alphabet Monument, it goes to Chkan, and it goes all the way to, visits all of the monasteries near the border of Georgia. You spend the night over there, and you go all the way to Dilijan and come back to Yerevan. It's just a fantastic experience. We spent 2 days, we went there. It was like, I really felt that I was really enjoying Armenia. So with that said, what's happening is that I'm going to tell you a couple of situations over here. When you go on these road trips, again, the idea is that sometimes we need to just go off the beaten path and explore places that that generally you don't. We were going to Goris in October. I was with my sister, my brother's son, Arvin, and then her husband. And then we were going to Goris. We were on the main highway going to Goris. And what happened was we saw a sign that said, Goris, it was an alternate path, alternate road. We said, why don't we just take this road? So we had never been on that road. So we said, let's take this road. So we drove maybe about 10-15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, we saw this sign that said, this church is being renovated. It was off of a dirt road. Let's go take a look at the road. In Armenia, you won't find a brand new church being renovated. Everything is like historical, several hundred years old. So we took the road, and that off-road, it was a relatively okay road, dirt road, but about 10 minutes later, we pull up in front of this church, which was built in 1301, Saint Hovhannes Karapet Church. So the people were working on the top of the roof, on the dome, they were like sanding, and white sand was everywhere, you could only see the workers over there, and it was gated, so we couldn't get close to it. So I was finding some peaks to take some pictures and stuff. It was right early afternoon, maybe about 12, 1 o'clock or whatever, and then all of a sudden the work stopped, and the workers started coming out. The last person that was coming out of there, it was an older man. I call him Master Samvel. He walked out and he said, hey, where are you from? I said, I'm from America, and my sister is from Sweden. And he said, you guys all came all the way from there to visit us? He said, yeah. So he said, he opened the gate. He said, come on in. So we went inside. We spent like 45 minutes, gave us a tour of the entire place, told us about the history of the place, who built it, who were the founders of the place, their graves right on the site itself, told us exactly who's buried in there, who are the architects. Momik, anybody is familiar with the name Momik, who designed Noravank, is the same architect who built this church. So he told us about the history of the architect who built it at that period. It was just an unbelievable experience. He spent 45 minutes with us, and we said, okay, and we were going to get going. He said, no, you're going to have to come in and have watermelon, gata, and coffee with us. So we spent another 15, 20 minutes, had a little bit of the gata coffee with him, and we got going. So the point I'm trying to make right now is, even if you're going these road trips and stuff, what's most important is experience these type of situations. Because we went to Goris, it's an absolutely beautiful place, but I forgot what it looked like outside of some pictures, but this memory will stay with me forever. Another situation, we were going out, I was doing the road trip thing, again, mapping out a road trip around Lake Sevan. And I always do, nowadays I'm like really curious because I've seen most of the iconic sites, so I'm looking for places. I'm working on another volume of my larger book, Now I'm looking for places that I haven't seen. They are very remote, not many people know about it, So I done research about this one particular cemetery. It's called the Noradus Cemetery. It's about 5 minutes, literally 5-minute drive from Lake Sevan in the Noradus village. If you're familiar with the Armenian history in the last 30 years or so, in Nakhichevan region of Azerbaijan, which used to be part of Armenia, there was a cemetery called the Julfa or the Juha Cemetery. We had 10,000 khachkars, cross stones, and graves. When the war started, the Iraq war started, they systematically destroyed everything, 100%. Everything they restored it, bulldozed it, and dumped everything in Iraq's river. Used to be the largest collection of the Armenian khachkars in the world, so that's all gone. So Noratus Cemetery now holds the largest collection of Armenian khachkars in the world. It's got about 800 of them from the 7th century all the way through 9th century through the 17th century. So we go in there, there's this older lady, doesn't look like a tour guide, approaches us and says, do you want a tour? I said, yeah, why not, Honestly, this person knew every khachkar, every grave. We spent over an hour, we didn't have too much time, because we were still going to other places. Over an hour, he took us to all the significant khachkars and the graves, told us exactly who's buried in there, who designed the khachkar, who built the khachkar, etc., etc. And then on the way out, we gave her like 3,000 drams or whatever. She was a hard bargainer. She said, no, my rate is 5,000. So we gave her the 5,000, and then we walked outside of there, There was a little kiosk in there, little building in there, a woman who was, baking gata, We got a couple of fresh gatas, got in the car, it was still hot in our hands, So the point I'm trying to make right now is these type of moments are absolutely fantastic. These are really what makes Armenia so special for me. So with that said, I've got, I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs over here about the road trips, and then we're going to go to the actual last section of the presentation. So this experience has stayed with me. Not just because of the place, but because of the people, the hospitality, unexpected moments that made it unforgettable. But that's the thing about the road trips in Armenia. It's not just about where you're going, it's about everything in between. Pausing for a shepherd and his herd to cross the road. The soft clang of bells filling the silence. It's pulling over for freshly roasted corn on an open fire handed to you with a smile. It's walking into a village bakery, the scent of a warm tie in the air, leaving one with hot in your hands. It's stumbling upon a tiny roadside shop where a villager proudly shares handmade crafts, each piece holding a story. It's an elderly woman offering a spontaneous tour of an inside, passing down history as if it were yesterday. And sometimes it's just the drive itself, rolling down the window, feeling the crisp mountain air, and letting the endless landscapes leave their imprint on you. In Armenia, road trips aren't just about reaching a destination, they're about the unexpected moments that turn into lifelong memories. This last section is one of the road trips that I've mapped, what I call the Northern Heritage Road Trip. It starts with Yerevan, and then it goes to what's called the Alphabet Monument. If you go north of Yerevan we were going towards the Lori region, it's what's called the Alphabet Monument. They have this massive monuments of each one of Armenian letters that are built right, because it's right near the Mount Aragat, so that's in the background, These massive monuments of every one of the Armenian alphabets. It's a gorgeous place. Kids will play there, you can spend an hour or two just, enjoying that environment. From there, it goes to the Trochkan waterfall, which is the highest one in Armenia. And then from there, you go to the Ozun Church, one of the large churches in Armenia. It goes all the way back to 5th to 7th century. It's a fantastic place. And then from there, you go to the Akhtala Monastery. The Akhtala Monastery has got the largest collection of frescoes. Everything is inside of the monastery covered with frescoes. That's the only place that you'll see that many frescoes in Armenia. And then from there, there's the Hakhbat and Sanahin monasteries. Those are the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Absolutely fantastic. If you've never been to Armenia, if you go to Armenia, you must go see these two places at least, And then from there, we go to another off-road to another monastery called Nevank. And then the last place called Aghartsin Monastery. Aghartsin means play of the eagles. Ag means like play, Artsin comes from eagles. Aghartsin is like play of the eagles monastery. This monastery was completely destroyed, but one of the UAE, United Arab Emirates, what do we call, the kings or whatever, the sheikh, funded the entire, the remodeling and the, restoration of the monastery. It's just an absolutely fantastic place right in, in Dilijan, which is like a gorgeous place, one of the most beautiful places. So with that said, I have a video that I'm going to show you that takes us through this road trip. So, some closing comments here, remarks. At the heart, this book is more than a travel guide. It's an invitation to discover Armenia's story through its people, culture, and achievements. It equips travelers, both non-Armenians and diaspora Armenians, with the tools to explore confidently, while also uncovering the depth of a nation that's given so much to the world. I'm incredibly proud of what Armenia has accomplished, from its artists, composers, and filmmakers, to its scientists, chess grandmasters, and cultural innovators, all emerging from a land that has endured so much, yet continues to thrive. Recognizing and celebrating these achievements matters. When others visit, experience, and share Armenia's story, it strengthens our cultural identity and amplifies Armenia's voice globally. This book is rich to connect travelers to Armenia to ensure its beauty and legacy are seen, valued, and preserved for generations to come. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David. What impressive travel through Armenia, beautiful pictures, but I think even more so how he connected what he saw with the culture and the history and how visiting these places ties that in. Thank you, David, very much.
Thank you.
We're going to have time for a few questions, and then we'll have time to take a look at some of his